Today on the last 5%, we're going to talk about your physical health.
I'm sick and tired of seeing men, not step into who they're supposed to be in terms of taking care of their bodies. And I'm sick of seeing people accept the labels on themselves physically instead of trying to grow.
I, for some reason, got it in my head that I could do 100 push-ups.
At once.
In a row.
One of my goals of this episode is that by the end of this, you have a fresh resolve and a clear idea of something you can do to deal with the weed that you are probably very aware of, but have been indifferent towards.
All right, everyone, welcome back to The Last 5%. I'm Zach Manor, and I'm here with the Jonathan Moynihan.
What's up?
There's so much heaviness when you had the.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
You're uncomfortable? Okay. Jonathan Moynihan, lead pastor of Mosaic Christian Church, eater of one Oreo at a time.
That's right.
As we all learned this weekend.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
I don't think about it. It just happens. I am definitely guilty of doing 3 at a time, but I have the capacity to do 1, and I will do that often.
You want to confess to everyone here. There's been times.
Oh, there's been times, but like never a sleeve. I mean, that's never been a thing.
Yeah, it's never been a thing. Me neither. Just kidding. Okay.
However, someone did teach me once how to put a fork into the middle of the Oreo, then dip that into the milk, and then little Oreo lollipop type thing there. It's good.
Yeah. All right. We're going to get into this episode. Today on the last 5%, we're going to talk about your physical health.
Yeah.
And my physical health.
Yes.
And your physical health.
Yes.
And physical health altogether.
Right.
We're going to focus on diet and exercise and sleep.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff we covered in the sermon, we're just going to expand on it and do a deep dive into what it practically looks like to start to figure out your daily routines, your daily rhythms.
And to deal with... to stir up courage to deal with the thing that you probably already know. And one of my goals of this episode is that by the end of this, you have a fresh resolve and a clear idea of something you can do to deal with the weed that you are probably very aware of, but have been indifferent towards.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I would like to have that. I came out of the sermon wanting that. So
good.
I'm glad. If you're listening, look forward to it.
Yeah.
But if not, at least Zach will get something out of it today.
That seems to be a theme here in the show.
You know
if
what?
nothing else, Zach will get something out of it.
Someone told me that. They were like, do you just walk into that podcast every time?
Yeah, because we did the emotional process week 1, and then even last week we did like the gratitude thing, which I know you've been doing, and it's like, hey, I appreciate you, Zach.
And heads up, we're going to do a callback later to where I told on myself about hitting the snooze button, episode 1, and we're going to talk about the snooze button today.
Boom.
But before we get in, we just want to say this has been an experiment. We've been saying that this is an experiment.
Right.
And we want to just reflect a little bit on how it's been going.
Yeah.
What we see. People are watching it.
Yeah, and it seems like it's adding value to their walk with Christ, which is the most important thing. It's helping them contextualize the topics we're discussing. It's been fun to chat with people who've gone through the sermon and then an episode, and then later that week something occurs in their life, or weeks later, and like, I felt more prepared to navigate this. That's been a huge add. Ongoing, the plan right now is we have at least 2 to 3 more episodes on the docket. They're not going to be every week, but we want each one to be robust and helpful with a decent amount of content that accelerates the conversation. So as of right now, we have 2 to 3 already planned that will occur over the next month or so. But the plan is to keep going, and maybe at a less frequency than every week, but certainly more than just whenever we feel like it.
Yeah, and it's an open-ended experiment.
Totally.
I mean, months down the road, if we do a few more, as soon as we don't feel like this is helping Mosaic to live out the gospel in the Baltimore area,
yes,
we're cutting it.
Yeah, we're not interested in building a platform. We're interested in serving the church.
Yeah.
As long as it serves the church, we'll keep doing it. And if not, if it becomes a weed, we will trim it.
But don't get it wrong. If you're listening, if you're watching, we still need you to rate, review, comment.
Yeah.
A lot of you have come up to us in the lobby on church and said, this is what helped me, this is what didn't. If you could just put that in writing.
Great.
And send it out there and give the stars you think are appropriate.
That's a great way to say it. The stars you think are appropriate.
Yeah.
Great.
Hey, that would be great. All right, you ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
We're talking about health. First question, why though?
Well, we're not the experts, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, there's a lot of incredibly qualified people in our church who are more trained in, anatomy, physiology, muscles, diet, all those things. So our angle is not so much to pretend to be the experts in those areas, but to have the courage to call out the ways that we grow complacent in American culture when it comes to caring for our physical bodies. The theology of the body throughout Scripture, from Genesis to Jesus, beginning in the creation mandate and then affirmed in Jesus, and the contextualization of Paul about Jesus, is that your body is good, your body is a tool, it doesn't belong to you, you are one with Christ, that's 1 Corinthians 6, and that your body becomes the temple of the Holy Spirit, and that our bodies are resurrected in the end when the new heaven and new earth come together. So not only is our body like the new tabernacle where heaven and earth blend together here on earth, but also our bodies are with us when we are part of the final blending of the new heaven and new earth together. So there's no way to read the overarching theme of the body throughout Scripture and think it doesn't matter. There was this first century heresy called Gnosticism, which was the idea that the spirit is good and the body is bad. And the Gnostics rejected the idea that Jesus was fully man and had a body and really bled and died, because they just thought all things material and flesh were bad. But that was an active heresy that Paul spoke against, and he constantly called the Christians to understand that Jesus was real, he was a real man, he had a real body, and that your bodies aren't inherently bad, even though some of those painful things we experience have to do with our body, but that in the end we would experience a resurrected body with Christ in the end when all things come together. So the fact your body matters so much in the Scriptures, and the fact that our culture diminishes the body or hyperinflates and obsesses over the body, there is a need for this nomadic middle, this kingdom vision of the body to be presented. So that's why we did this topic in the series.
And I listen to a lot of like spiritual content. I listen to a lot of sermons. I listen to a lot of stuff. I read a lot of books. I don't hear a lot of churches talk about this.
Well, a part of it is you have to tread lightly speaking about this deeply intimate experience we have with our bodies. Nothing gets covered up or altered or hated on quite like our own bodies. When you talk to women about the burden of navigating our modern culture, the mirror is such a destructive thing in their life at times. And in the same way that I'll pastor men through dealing with pornography or sexual dysfunction, and that's not exclusively a male issue, but generally it hits men differently. On the flip, I see an equal and opposite struggle in women's lives when it comes to the mirror. And in the same way that some women can't relate to a man who's happily married, attracted to his wife, but struggles with porn, on the same way that's hard for them to grapple with that, I hear a lot of guys who struggle to understand their wife, who they love, they're attracted, they think is beautiful, who just has a deeply burdened and dysfunctional relationship with the mirror because of things they were taught as a girl or their relationship with food. We talked about disordered eating on Sunday. But all of this is just, it's very difficult to talk about in a way that doesn't trigger all of that wounding and stir up shame. Yeah. And any dialogue rooted in Christ should not be rooted in shame, not be inviting shame in. But I think a lot of people out of fear of that don't have the dialogue. And then also, let's just be candid, a lot of pastors are good at talking about holiness in other areas, but not so much when it comes to food or diet. And it's hard to preach with authority on something that you are currently flailing at. Like as a pastor, if you don't read your Bible, you're not going to sit across from a guy at the coffee and say, man, how's your Bible reading? Because there's a deep insecurity within self. Someone who's bad with their finances is not going to be good at holding others accountable for their finances.
Was there something in you as a pastor that maybe didn't want to preach the sermon? Or did you know that it was important for people?
Well, if I have to be perfect at it to preach it, I'll never preach anything. So that's not the bar. I think a holy conviction, a holy discontent, out of the restlessness I felt towards myself, and then doing the work with God prior to preaching, I think that is how I can be a guide. My job is not to be an expert, it's to be a guide in the wilderness. So like the thing I shared of feeling convicted by the Holy Spirit, that I couldn't tell you the last time over this 3-week span I didn't have an alcoholic beverage. When I was writing that sermon, I was
it's a big thing to admit to the church.
And just, I intentionally said it in an incendiary way, like I drink too much. And what I meant is like I drink too frequently. I didn't mean like I drink a lot when I do. So I was being playful there, but I think willingness to look at stuff like that in your life then prepares you to experience the power of God and then preach about the healing power of God. So I'm not perfect at it. Like I'm that guy who gets away with eating poorly because of a high metabolism and because of, I work out and I am responsible with what I eat. I do the fasting window and all that stuff. But Yeah, I think it was just I'm sick and tired of seeing men, not step into who they're supposed to be in terms of taking care of their bodies, and I'm sick of seeing people accept the labels on themselves physically instead of trying to grow, and then also trying to care for the women in our church of like the oppressive weight and expectations that are put on women. And I think it goes to either extremes. It's like, oh, nothing's wrong, everything's fine, don't worry about it, don't pursue effort, and that's wrong. But also like starve yourself, hurt yourself, live enslaved to this image-obsessed economy. That's a problem too.
And connect the dots back to the Gnosticism thing. It sounds like if we don't talk about it, then we're kind of committing. We're kind of like buying into that mind view.
Well, I mean, there's lots of podcasts that I listen to just to help me understand the spiritual climate of our day that aren't Christian. It's a lot of detachment theory, a lot of detachment meditation. I am separate from this. I'm removed from this. I am not my body. But then also on the other hand, there's the obsession over the flesh and my body is my God. And I joked about modern gym culture basically being worship. The mirror is the altar.
Which is so true.
Yeah.
You should, I know it's in the sermon, watch the sermon, but like give us the church of gym.
Yeah,
like
the mirror is the worship altar where you gaze and admire.
Yeah.
Influencers are the pastors who guide and correct. Workout splits are the discipleship platform.
Yeah.
And then pre and post workout is the communion. It's through the elements you become a new person. And it's
you tithe to the gym.
To the gym. You pay a lot. And to Gymshark and to Lulu and your pre-workouts and all those things. And I say all this as the person who takes 5 grams of creatine every day, try to hit my protein goals. I'm not currently doing really well with that. I don't know why I looked at my arms there.
But you sunk so quickly into self-deprecation.
Yeah.
That's funny. No, that was really good.
That's why we're talking about it.
Yeah, that's why we're talking about it, because the Bible demands that we talk about it.
And we have more information than ever when it comes to our health, but it's never been more difficult to actually be healthy because of our food and drink industry and because of our natural rhythms and screen time and all those things.
Yes. That was one of the questions I had. Has it always been this hard? I've only lived in this era, but I'm just thinking, like, has every civilization, like, do you think, struggled as much as we do with trying to get it right every day?
I'm not going to pretend to have, like, the most educated opinion on this. I just don't see how it was this hard in, like, 1900. I think health was different back then. Like, in the 1900s, being healthy was probably more of a concern of like, am I inhaling fumes from a factory? Like that was the concern, not am I going to get my steps in? Am I going to get vitamin D? Am I going to eat healthy? Because like in the 1900s, like early 1900s, if you wanted vegetables, you got it from a farmer. There weren't all these chemicals in it. If you wanted meat, you went to a butcher. If you wanted physical exercise, it was called a job.
Right. Most jobs were just physical.
Yeah. I mean, like, my kids are obsessed with the movie WALL-E right now.
Oh.
At the end of WALL-E,
right.
It's everybody is just seated. They don't know that they can move. They don't know they can cook. They don't have any hobbies. They're just sitting there, be kind of gelatinous blobs. And it's like our average life in white-collar thought work is this. And, the average meal that you have access to is not going to be as good for you. So I think in order to live a similar life in terms of nutrition and exercise and rest that was true maybe 120 years ago, you have to live with a very increased intensity to do so. And there's even some researchers I've read about who talk about how the introduction of electricity was the beginning of our death of sleep and our addiction to caffeine. Because it used to be when the lights went down, you went to bed and people slept for 10 to 11 hours. And now obviously with electricity and caffeine and all these things.
And we've never been more exposed to all the things you could do.
Right. And it's paradox of choice.
Yeah. I get caught up in looking up what the specific thing I ought to be doing.
Mm-hmm. And I jump around from like crazy thing to crazy thing.
No, I do too.
And it's not sustainable.
One crazy thing I do is I sit for 30 to 45 minutes looking up what I ought to be doing.
Like a workout plan or something?
Yeah, instead of just going outside for a walk. Like I lived in a closed neighborhood. I could just run around the block once.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no. I have limited time. I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing.
Right.
30 minutes later, I'm like, I've bought like this intense workout, which I don't know why I do. I haven't worked out in 6 years. Let me do what the Navy SEALs do.
It's a rush, and I'm sure that there's a word for this, but there's the temptation to think, instead of just going to the gym, I need to get the right gear for the gym, and then I'll go to the gym.
Yes.
And you're really just lying to yourself. It's like, just go with like the crappy workout clothes, and it's fine. You don't need the best shoes to go do some squats, especially if you don't actively do squats.
Yeah,
just go do air squats in your bare feet, and you're fine.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Probably won't do that.
Well, a lot of the high-level performers who squat in like flat shoes and stuff like that.
Yeah, so my just New Balances are going to be okay.
Honestly, you and I are not putting enough weight on our body to deal with it. You know, like people get spoilers on their car?
Yeah.
You're not going fast enough, bro. Your Honda Civic doesn't need a spoiler. In the same way, we don't need fancy clothes to work out.
Yeah, or a like regimented plan.
Just go do something.
Yeah, I haven't done any physical activity in months. Why don't you just walk around the block once and then figure out how much weight you need to put on a exercise you've not done in a while.
And I'm sure there's a dopamine dump when you buy a workout plan or you get new clothes, or like you buy like the $65 PDF on how to do whole food nutrition. Yes. But then like 2 days later, it's like the famous meme, you go drop $150 at grocery store, but then you get Chipotle on the way home to treat yourself. It's like, bro, what are we doing?
Yeah. One silly thing I used to do is this thing called bullet coffee.
Oh, I used to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Throwing some butter in there.
It's for the watchers or the viewers that don't know, it is a cup of coffee.
Yes.
It is up to 2 tablespoons of butter.
Right.
And there's a fancy chemical that I forget the name of, but you can just replace it with coconut oil.
Yeah.
2 tablespoons of coconut oil.
Mm-hmm. It's like a frothy coffee.
You blend it.
Yeah.
And you've got to put some like cinnamon in there. At least I did to like make it bearable.
Like cinnamon or cinnamon sugar?
Just cinnamon. Right. Just cinnamon. And then you take it, and in the morning you're full, and then you poop yourself at lunch because it runs right through. I mean, it was like a real problem. But I was like, I'm healthy. I'm really doing something that I don't want to do.
Well, it makes me think of, again, there's probably some big word for this, but the whole premise of advertising is you saw someone promoting Bulletproof Coffee. And they don't ever say this, but the narrative that comes online is, if I do Bulletproof Coffee, I will look like this person. I will have the discipline of this person. I'll feel like this person. When in fact, you're just sitting there drinking bad coffee and then going to the bathroom in 20 minutes.
Well,
it could lead to great things. But
I think what it was is I got wrapped up in the amount of information there was about dieting.
Right.
Because it was the end of the road of me. I was really doing the ketogenic diet.
Yep.
Which is you eat meat, cheese, and vegetables, pretty much. So I was doing that, and then I wanted to do that the best. So then I found more videos about how to do that the best, and the people that were doing it the best were also doing this thing.
Right.
So now I have to do this thing too, and I have to drink this much water, and all of a sudden I'm just like paralyzed.
Or then you crash out hard after you do it. Like I did carnivore in 2022. I did carnivore diet, I think, for 6 weeks. And I lost like 18 pounds, didn't lose any of my gains in the gym. I was actually increasing some things. Again, go to the bathroom a lot when you first do carnivore. And it was expensive. That's the problem with it. But then after, just kind of crashed out. And, the goal here is to find a sustainable rhythm of stewardship, of a good, healthy stewardship. And everyone's going to be different. And we've got CrossFit coaches in our church who are crazy intense. They could do a Murph right now, no question. We've got like legit, like competing bodybuilder professionals in our church who are so on top of it, and it's awesome. But again, the aesthetic isn't the goal. It's healthy, sustainable stewardship of the body. That's the target. And I think one of the things that's difficult with this is, like we said in the sermon, the goal is vibrancy and vitality for the longevity of what God's called you to, not vanity. So, you can have a six-pack and be deeply unhealthy in these areas. Or, you could eat whatever you want, but still be skinny and be deeply unhealthy in these areas.
When you said that, I'm hoping that someone like heard that and decided to get rid of the shame they might feel.
I hope so.
About their body.
Yeah.
And if they're qualified to participate in this life. Just simply because what the world tells you is like there's a non-starter for how big your body is.
Yeah, and
it doesn't have to be that.
I want to tread lightly because I don't want to just lower the bar to the weakest people and just say, I'm only going to call it these people. Like, I want to call it everybody. Like the framework I have in my mind on some of an idea like this is when you're on an airplane, when do you feel the speed of the plane the most? At takeoff. When are you traveling the fastest? At cruising altitude. And so what I want is not for everybody to have the same destination of what they're trying to get, but I want them to take an accelerated posture and start working hard towards whatever that is for them, because you're gonna feel that pushback as you're accelerating. And whether you're the skinny guy who can eat whatever he wants and needs to stop eating fast food so much, there's gonna be a season of acceleration there to get healthy. But also for a person who is, maybe larger, but they're actively working towards something, that is equally beautiful and wonderful. I care about like your acceleration, not your terminal velocity, because it's gonna be different for everybody, different metabolisms, different seasons of life, different injuries that all affect it.
And we're two dudes sitting here,
right,
talking about this stuff, and we know, like, we asked some like women,
right,
and you heard some in the lobby have come up to you on Sunday to talk about different things.
Right.
And I'm thinking back to Caitlin, episode 2, if you haven't watched, that said the healthiest thing I did for my mental health was read the Bible before looking in a mirror.
Yeah.
What have we heard, since we have no one on screen, about like how is there something unique that we know for women?
Well, I think because they are preyed upon from advertising and beauty standards and Hollywood and all those things, the most important thing a woman can understand about her body is that she's an image bearer of God. She's treated with value and inherent worth, and the value she has as a woman in her body is independent of whatever beauty standards are prominent of that day. So understanding her value, understanding that the internal narratives that she thinks about herself likely weren't put there by the power of the Holy Spirit. They're likely planted there from media and advertising and things like that. That's a really important thing. And so I think for women, the real deep work is looking at the motivations for why they want to pursue certain fitness goals. A woman who wants to go on keto, that answer alone does not indicate it's healthy. That want could be rooted in a deeply unhealthy desire to appease some sort of projected version of beauty or wounding from mom. I have a friend I was talking to who had an abusive mother, and for years she felt like going to the gym would make her mom right.
In what way?
Like if she actually succumbed to the pressure of going to the gym, then she would prove her mother right, and everything her mom said about her was true. But like her mom was deeply hurtful to her and like abusive, literally. So there's like this wound that she had to work on with Jesus before the gym could even be a healthy thing. Now, I think that's the deeper burden a lot of women uniquely have to go through. Like, why am I doing this? Why am I pursuing this? Why do I want to do this diet? Why do I want to wear these clothes? I was talking to my executive assistant, Sarah. She was talking about heroin chic, where like in the 90s.
Which is not like hero.
No, not
chic.
Hero, like heroin.
Heroin,
but like
like
heroin the drug.
Yeah.
And in the 90s, the beauty standard was basically be so skinny you look like you're on heroin. And even low-rise jeans were a simulation of being so skinny your clothes don't fit you. And like that's the environment that she was raised in.
Yeah.
And it's like
I didn't even know that was I'd
never heard that before.
Not know that was happening.
So now imagine your most formative years between 10 and 15. That message gets planted. It doesn't matter that years later that fashion is gone. That message was deeply ingrained in the neural pathways of her prepubescent and pubescent life. Now there is a deep-seated grading system of self. So Sarah has this burden now where she has to contemplate whatever fitness goal I pursue, is it rooted in like a redemptive vision of stewardship and longevity and health, or am I just trying to satisfy that 13-year-old self that wants to feel pretty? Like that's a different burden for women than men.
Yeah.
So I'm tender to that, and I that's why like we walk wisely and tread lightly, but also have the convo.
Yeah.
Because again, women are strong. They're not going to be coddled into image bearers of Jesus. They don't need that. So
let's have the
it's
convo.
been helpful talking to her, and she's helpful about it.
For sure.
Yeah.
So let's have the convo. Let's talk about it and not talk about talking about it.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah.
So you sent me a quote when you were writing the content. You sent me a quote from Sitzer.
Yeah.
That seems like a good transition into this.
Yeah. So this is just kind of the state of the early church and why Christians need to see struggle and difficulty not as a glitch of the Christian walk, but a feature. So I'm just going to read this quote from Gerald L. Sitzer. He said, the early church believed that struggle is normal, necessary, and even healthy in the spiritual life. He said the fallenness of the world imposes difficulty. Discipleship requires difficulty, and believers must choose to face it. We therefore cannot escape struggle, nor should we try. Rather, we should embrace it as one aspect of our calling to discipleship. For the goal in this world is not ease, property, and success, but intimacy with God, maturity of character, and influence in the world. And then last thing he says, struggle proves we are taking the Christian life seriously. After all, Jesus taught that we must die to ourselves, take up our cross daily, and follow him who is Lord over all. So struggle proves you're taking the Christian life seriously.
Yeah, it sounds like you could say if you're not doing stuff you don't want to do, you're not leaning into the fullness of the Christian life.
And that is one of the reasons why one of our core values as a church is faith is spelled R-I-S-K. Risk is a way of proving you believe in what you say.
So let's talk about each area.
Right.
And by the way, we're going to put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
Just for anybody who wants to have that quote.
Yep.
Let's talk about each of the areas we talked about, like from your sermon, diet, exercise, and sleep through the lens of what are you maybe not leaning into, risk? Where are you not leaning into risk? Is there an area of struggle that you need to embrace?
Yeah.
And some just compelling, I think, persuasive things about why this is so important.
Yeah.
Let's start with sleep.
Great.
Speaking of things that I'm not good at and don't want to talk about and lean into, sleep.
When you say you're not good at sleep, what do you mean?
Well, let's call back to episode 1.
Okay.
I told on myself. We were talking about how we deceive ourselves at different things. And I said I hit the snooze button up to 9 times.
Woof.
And I wasn't being facetious.
Just then is it like an 8-minute gap between, 5-minute gap?
9.
Okay.
Yeah, 9.
You're talking about 81 minutes of sleep inertia where your brain is getting whiplashed.
I'm going to be honest with you. Sleep inertia sounds made up.
No,
I think you made that up to throw me under the bus.
Yeah, so I was listening.
Is that real? Sleep inertia?
Yeah, sleep inertia is a thing.
So,
yeah, I'm not a neuroscientist, but when I listen to smart people talk about this, it's the idea that when you wake up, your whole body heats up, and your brain is starting to wake up for the day, and you are then operating into wake time. And when you hit snooze and go back to sleep, your brain is trying to wake up, but then you shut it down again. And simply doing it one time, some studies have indicated delays up to 3 hours of effective productivity on the back end because your brain never really gets going. So picture an engine where you're jumping from 5th gear to 1st gear over and over again. You're going to blow that transmission. So sleep inertia is the idea of false starting in the brain.
I got to be honest. I do feel that right around 2 p.m. Here's how I'm a mess. Why does this happen every episode? This is the theme of a feature of last 5%.
The last 5% for Zach Manor. That's what we call it. Yeah.
And you can watch too and grow and learn. No, I feel that at 2 p.m. And for a long time, what I said is I need a coffee. 2 p.m. I get low energy. And you're suggesting maybe there's this outcome of not waking up well.
Well, and the 2 p.m. coffee, the half-life of coffee and caffeine in your system, I've seen some things that indicate 6 to 8 hours. So when you're trying to lay in bed at 10 o'clock, you already have coffee in your system. And so then you don't go to sleep well, then you have poor sleep, then you hit snooze, and then you demands that you need to have caffeine again. And so now you're operating the cycle of dysfunction. So Matthew Walker, the neuroscientist I talked about, he recommends no caffeine after 10 o'clock in the morning.
That's early.
Yeah. And because it stays in your system and it affects your sleep.
Okay.
And so I've gone through stages where I'm good at this and stages where I'm bad at this. But, it is clinically proven having coffee after 12 o'clock does hinder your sleep.
And then I'm in this snooze button where snoozing seems like a good idea in order to stay up, but it's actually ruining my day for the next day.
And when you hit snooze, you actually trigger some of the dopamine and adrenaline part of the brain because it's so satisfying to stay back in bed. So you are you're trying to stay asleep, but you're actually triggering one of the reward centers of the brain So then your body gets addicted to it, which is why you like hitting it so frequently. And I'm saying this as someone who has to put his phone in the bathroom. And even sometimes I'll walk to the bathroom, turn it off, and then go back in bed. Like I've done that before. But I have to put my phone in another room in order for me to get up when it first goes off.
Yeah. I'm not a neuroscientist, neither one of us are, but I know and have experienced everything that you've just said.
Yeah, you're addicted to something that's bad for you, which is,
Yeah.
But then it feels good, so then you keep doing it. Yeah. And it does affect your ability to think deeply, be productive, all that stuff. And that's one of the benefits, like cold showers, cold plunges. It sort of wakes you up a little bit faster. But.
Yeah. No, that's about how I wake up. But there's some like really interesting stuff about sleep that we didn't get to in the sermon.
Right.
We had brought it up, but we didn't like dive in. And it is with Matthew Walker,
Yep.
Berkeley.
Cal Berkeley neuroscientist.
Cal Berkeley, neuroscientist. Was on the Rogan podcast.
Yeah.
And
years ago.
Right. And has a really, like, a lot of people watch this clip. Like, it's still relevant on YouTube.
Yeah.
You can find it. In fact, we'll put it in the show notes so that you can watch
Great.
it for yourself. But, like, tell us why that's helpful, like what Matthew Walker's discovered.
Yeah, so he found sleep is far more important than any of us care to realize. I mentioned on Sunday, the one time a year everybody loses an hour, 1.6 billion lose an hour of sleep in 70 different nations, daylight savings time. Heart attacks spike 24% following that. And then the time we gain an hour's sleep, heart attacks go down 21%. So basically sleep is so essential that if you have an already fragile health system, it could lead to catastrophe just from that 1 hour of sleep. He also talks about how naps do not help in terms of brain health and sleep. You can have 4 hours of sleep and then try to take a 2-hour nap in the afternoon. Your brain needs extended, continuous recovery time. And if you do 4 hours and then 2, it does not equal 6. It's actually just as harmful.
4.
Yeah. And this isn't causation, but it is correlated. He even brings up Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, two famous world leaders, and they infamously like kind of celebrate and bragged about how they only needed 4.5 hours of sleep a night at a very, very high clip, operating at an extremely high level in a way that their name will be remembered more than any of us. They slept for 4 to 4.5 hours a night.
And let me stop you. I hear that all the time.
Yeah.
I hear people do that. I need 4 hours. Good 4 hours, and I'm set.
So he cites that both of them died of like Alzheimer's dementia earlier than would be normally reported. And he says, I mean, there are studies even from, gosh, I forget which one it was, American Heart Association, interrupted sleep or chronic lower than 7 to 8 hours of sleep does accelerate brain decay. And I mean, you have to go back and look at the podcast, but this is super meta, being a podcast, talking about a podcast. But Matthew Walker talks about how the aging of the brain starts to accelerate at a rapid rate when you are not sleeping on a regular basis. And the brain needs dream sleep. So, for me, one of the things that motivated me to really look at how frequently I was choosing to have a drink at night or after bedtime with my wife is, I think he said this, your brain can't enter into dream sleep while the liver is processing alcohol. And it takes about 6 hours for that to happen. So the average person who has a beer or a drink at night then goes to sleep at 11 and then wakes up at 5 or 6, you're not even getting enough time for your body to process the alcohol and then enter into a dream state of sleep, which the brain requires in order to be healthy, which is why chronically alcoholic people start to have dreams and daytime hallucinations because the brain says, screw you, I'm going to get my dream sleep. It's just going to be while you're awake.
That's wild.
So like people who go on benders and just have been drunk for extended periods of time, their brain will start to facilitate dream sleep and a dream state while they're awake.
What I hear a lot of people say is they have a drink to be able to go to sleep. Like it's an effect of like, we all know alcohol, a drink, a cocktail can be a little bit of a downer. Helps you relax a little bit. A glass of wine before bed is good for the antioxidants, they say. But you're saying that actually is ruining your sleep.
Well, a PhD neuroscientist from Cal Berkeley is
Not
saying
you.
It's bad
Jonathan
for your sleep.
Jonathan Moynihan said.
No. So, yeah, I mean, if you need a drink to sleep, that is a sign you need to go to a physician and talk to somebody because you have a significant issue that, if unaddressed, will lead to significant unwellness.
But that's why I'm glad we're talking about this, because that is an overgrown weed.
Yeah.
Like, I've just casually heard that. I've fully accepted that. People have a drink to go to bed. It's fine. They're not drunk. They're not outside of the biblical guidelines. They're not drunk, but it is overgrowing in their life.
It's not good stewardship.
It's not good stewardship.
So one of the things for me coming out of my realization when I did the first draft of the sermon 5 weeks ago is, if I was going to have a beverage with Stephanie, I tried to have it at dinner or before dinner just to minimize the on-ramp. So if I have a drink with Stephanie at 5 o'clock, I know that my liver will be done processing that at hopefully 11:30. So even then, if I'm up at 5, that's still going to be an extended 5-hour block. I'm going to sleep for 7, but I'm a 5-hour block where my body is fully able to process all this stuff. And I'm not saying that that's like proven clinically. I'm just trying to be more cognizant of it. Because if I don't make myself aware of these things and submit to them as good practices for stewardship. I mean, my Garmin tracks my sleep, and I was in Kentucky for a conference with a bunch of pastors, and we had a night where we were having bourbon. That next day, my watch was like, "Did you even sleep last night?" Like, the quality of sleep was so low because I had brown liquor later in the evening, and then, I'm still getting up at a good time to try to connect with God and all those things, but you just didn't sleep well.
Why do I have a feeling that like diet, exercise, and sleep are by the end of this episode all going to kind of like
they're all connected, bro.
Create a Venn diagram of health.
I love Venn diagrams.
I know. I was actually going to make fun of you for that. Like, I'm surprised we didn't do a Venn diagram. I will make a Venn diagram. I will put it in the show notes.
Great.
And it will just be 3 circles that say diet, exercise, and sleep.
And then yay in the middle. Do all 3.
So look forward to that. Share it on your social media. No, that's so stupid.
Brought to you by Canva.
But
you're an actual real designer. I'm sorry.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah. Be better than Canva.
But when we think about exercise, I know a lot of people that like say I'm getting good sleep, and I have the energy, I have the motivation, I have whatever to like start this exercise journey. The plane taking off, maybe.
Yeah.
I know there's so many people that just want to like transform their bodies and like really make the most of it. Don't know where to start. Is there like something that could help us think about this as we start to think about like exercising? Like,
we talked on Sunday about how Jesus would often exert himself physically before anchoring himself spiritually.
I have never thought about that.
Right, me neither.
When it was Jesus went to the hill, I didn't picture the hill, but it could have been.
I mean, picture having to go like walk up a significant hill and maybe a 10, 15-minute walk, and then you sit and pray. You're going to be more present in that environment. Yeah. So I'm not a pro. I use a couple different apps that help me develop a fitness plan. I think the best Bible plan in the world is the one you can stick to, and the best fitness plan in the world is one that you can stick to. Instead of experiencing that like whiplash of this thing, then this thing, then this thing, just finding something that is realistic. Contextualized to your wants and your needs and your desires to steward your body well. And I think inviting people into that is really good, holding yourself accountable. Again,
just like Sitzer said, you're embracing the struggle.
Yeah.
And the struggle for me is time with exercise. It's not actually doing it. It's the time it takes to get my clothes together, to do it at the right... I'd have to do it in the morning before my son gets up, so then I have to get ready the night before.
Right. Well, two things that come to mind with that. One is to go with your first question, we have lots of Mosaic groups open right now that are like fitness oriented. Like, I rolled in this morning for work at 6:30. That's just my rhythm. I saw our lobby probably had like 3 dozen people here who were here for a fitness group. I'm like, I don't know any of these people. I don't know what they're doing, but like, it was clearly a workout group, which is awesome. So if you don't know where to begin, find one of these groups, because they're not like, they're free. 2, there's community, and 3, they're being led by people who know enough about fitness to be able to lead the groups. That could be a great step.
Now, real quick about that, just because this will live forever on the internet. It is currently October 2025. And groups just started, but I mean, for the foreseeable future, Mosaic will always have a place for people to do this.
Yes.
Chances are, no matter what year you're listening to this, there will be groups launching at some point in this year, and you'll be able to join that.
Totally.
But if you are watching it this week and you follow us like every week, you can still sign up for a group. So do that.
So the second thing here with that tension you brought up related to your time and, baby Malcolm, all that stuff. So we occasionally will do a thing as a team called our Staff Fitness Challenge. over the years, we've done things like you have to all do this workout plan or all do this fitness thing. But 2 years ago when we did one, the goal was everyone on staff had to have a fitness challenge, but you weren't allowed. And if you did your challenge, you got like a $200 gift card to Lululemon, REI, Under Armour, whatever you wanted. But instead of having a blanket challenge, everyone on the team had to make a challenge for themselves, and it had to be approved by a peer and by their supervisor, which meant everyone could have a unique challenge contextualized to their growth areas and their goals, but it wasn't approved until their friends said it was hard enough and their supervisor agreed it was hard enough. Yeah. That is a great framework for the person who's like, I want to do something, but I don't know what. Invite other people who are going to be honest with you about, is this challenging enough? And we had instances of, like, I think I told this in a sermon. We had a guy who said, I want to do one handstand push-up. And we all laughed at him because we're like, there's no way that's going to be your challenge for 35 days.
Like, that's too difficult?
No, too easy.
Too easy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought, yeah.
And then
sounds too difficult for
yeah,
me.
Okay. Yeah, no, it was like, well, I mean, he was a guy who I just knew him. I knew his makeup. I knew his physical competency. I'm like, doing this for 60 days is way too easy, or however long the challenge was. But then there were other people who set their sights very high, and we didn't really know what was too hard or too little, and then it didn't happen.
You're talking about me. I'll put it out there. I, for some reason, got it in my head that I could do 100 push-ups.
At once.
In a row.
In a row. I mean, and I didn't know enough to be able to be like, oh, that sounds kind of unrealistic. I didn't know enough at the time.
Yeah.
I wasn't involved in this conversation.
But listen, I had a plan. This is the problem. Daggone it. Can I quit the podcast?
I think what you're about to say is going to be helpful for a lot of people who feel like they're failing at something and don't know what's going on.
Right. I got online and I found a plan that said if you do this many push-ups this many days in a row, and it went from like 2 to 100. And so I was like, if I follow this plan, and in fact, Mike Winger, our executive pastor, I showed it to him. I'm going to throw him under the bus too. I showed it to him because he was my supervisor at the time. And I was like, here's the plan.
And he was like, looks good.
Get after it, man. And I went, okay. But there was still, what I also knew is on the lobby, Mike was like, hey, so-and-so, strong guy, is actually going to do 100 push-ups in a row. And he's like, you
sure about that?
And I was like, I've got the plan.
You sure about that?
Yeah. I was like, I've got the plan. Like, I don't know, but I do think, looking back on this sermon and our conversation, it's the infodemic. There's too much info. It was the wrong info. I didn't actually read it enough because when I dove into it and I looked at the testimonies of what it takes to do it, the plan wasn't all at once. You did that plan over and over and over again until you were able to.
It wasn't like 60 days to go from 2 push-ups to 100.
It was a 60-day cycle. Over the course of years, you'll be able to work yourself up to that. And just in my excitement of trying to get the wrong thing, I didn't look fully into it. Cut to everybody has a $200 gift card except me.
And then on the back end, you're internalizing some sort of messaging you don't need to.
Yeah, and it was my first year on staff, and I'm like, I've ruined a reputation.
Yeah. But people hearing that need to be reminded that that is a normal play as we try to navigate healthy stewardship. You're going to overreach a little bit, stumble and fall, but the lie is, I guess I can't do this. I have to give up. Instead of, nope, we're going to learn from this. Even if you only ever got to 40 push-ups, freaking awesome, because you weren't there before the challenge, and then just go from there.
Yeah, that's the gold in it, right? When you embrace struggle, you end up doing something better or higher than you would have if you didn't go for something ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't even know where this came from. The whole idea of aim for the stars, you hit the moon. It's still pretty good.
And it looks really good on a graphic.
Yeah.
Aim for the stars.
And you'll hit the moon.
You may hit the moon. Somebody quote that, Jonathan Moynihan. Send that into us.
Michael Scott, Wayne Gretzky. Apply it. With this whole, another way to look at it that ties into fitness but also diet, because I think we'll talk about diet next.
Yeah.
I had to cut this from the sermon, but a couple years ago, I watched an interview with Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
And, he was sort of like the frumpy, playful guy from Parks and Rec, and then he turned into a super shredded Marvel action hero.
Yeah.
And someone asked him, what helped you, what was the most significant change you made? And he didn't talk about supplements. He didn't talk about even the workout plan. He said, before I got fit, I used to be really happy during my eating, my 10 or 15 minutes of eating whatever I wanted, but then I felt like trash for 4 hours after. And he said once he started to get healthy for Marvel, he realized I'm unhappy for 10 or 15 minutes eating healthy food, and then I feel great for 4 or 5 hours. And so he essentially swapped the time in which he was unhappy and said, why would I be happy for 10, unhappy for 4 hours when I can be less happy for 10, eating something healthy, but then feel great about myself for 4 hours? I think that dynamic with food also applies to fitness. I'm going to go be unhappy for 30 minutes on the treadmill or 30 minutes in a workout class, and then I'm going to feel great for 24 hours. But what we often do is we feel like safe and comfortable for 24 hours, but then eventually that accumulates to a point where we just feel unhealthy, our body's breaking down, we don't feel confident, or something like this comes up and we just frump and feel shame, and we don't need to feel shame. Yeah. But that dynamic of I've tried, and I'm not perfect at this, but I'm trying to be better at making good decisions at lunch, because that 2:30, 3 o'clock feeling hits real hard when you choose to eat poorly, and then hours later you're kind of feeling like crap. Whereas opposed to like even going to Cava instead of getting like a double meat burrito at Chipotle, like a Cava meal, I'm going to feel better at 3 o'clock than if I eat the double meat tortilla burrito from Chipotle. Yeah. Even though Chipotle, I would say, is better than Wendy's or something like that.
Right. We don't have a master tier list of all the restaurants.
No, sure. Yeah, I don't keep track of.
And if you, so I hear that, and I immediately enter all of the diet things I've tried, all of the like ways I go out to eat. I eat out way too much, which is a burden on my budget, and that's a whole other 5% of like why this is a struggle. And it's like, okay, so if I came from the sermon, which I did, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to eat well. Here I go. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's the area you need to tackle, and you're like looking up diets.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah, probably don't.
Or you're feeling shame about how much you eat out or whatever. Mm-hmm. Stop.
Yeah, conviction is good. Shame is not.
Right. But that whole idea of being unhappy for a little bit and then getting what you want on the other side of that.
Yeah, it's delayed gratification.
You mentioned like whatever you want is on the other side of hard.
Yeah.
And you can apply that to food.
Right.
One popular thing that people do that blurs the lines between spiritual and diet is fasting.
Right.
We both know a guy who, when asked how much he fasts, he said, every day. And we're like, what? Yeah. And he's like, yeah, I do the intermittent fasting. I fast every day, spiritually. Yeah. It's like, oh, no, that's a diet.
Yeah, it's a hack.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean it's like the biblical practice of fasting.
How do we pull those two apart and know which one we're doing or not? What about fasting do we need? What's our last 5%, like, I guess, on fasting when it comes to diet and exercise?
I guess the question would be, to which God is your fasting in service to?
Okay.
So I do intermittent fasting where I don't eat until 12 after cutting off consumption of food around 8. But I don't do that in service to God or to heighten my awareness and presence of the Spirit in my life. I'm doing that as a way to reject overconsumption and to just be basically to give us maybe a little bit more margin between 12 and 8 to eat things because we live in an unhealthy world. I would say the biblical practice of fasting is choosing to abstain from food for extended period of time on a rhythmic basis to literally endure the hunger pangs and orient yourself to God and to His practices and His purposes in your life, and on a most basic level, neglecting your visceral wants for food as a way to connect with God. So, when Jesus says, when you fast, don't fast as the hypocrites do. He doesn't say if you fast. He says when. And there's like this assumption that fasting would be taking place. But he didn't mean intermittent fasting. He sort of meant the ancient practice of going without food until dinner, which was like the practice at the time, going without food until dinner or sundown, and enduring. And remember, they're doing physical labor. It's easy. Like our fasting, we're sitting in an office for a lot of people. There's a lot of people listening who are working on cars and doing manual labor and stuff. But, for a lot of the hyper-educated, white-collar thought workers in our context, fasting is easy because you're at an office. Now imagine fasting if you're out in the field working all day. That's what they were doing. So they would willingly put themselves in an environment to endure hunger pangs, and then and orient themselves to God, thank God for their body, thank God for all He's doing, and then rejoice in the delight of the feast that occurs on the back end. So that's different than this convenient Western thing we do to keep our love handles in check.
Right. Well, fasting is a part of our secular world, but it's also a part of every world religion.
Yes.
Every world religion has some kind of fasting practice.
Yeah, and every world religion prays. So right. the power isn't in the practice. The power is the one that you are being anchored to in the practice. Like I said, I don't believe in the power of prayer. I believe in the one I'm praying to. So there's no special power that, oh my gosh, we're all praying together. That's wonderful. It's well, if you're clinging to a rope that is frayed and not anchored to anything, who cares if you're clinging to the rope? You're going to fall. And in the same way, fasting, if you are anchored to the Trinitarian love of Father, Son, Holy Spirit through your relationship with Jesus, then fasting can be a beautiful, powerful thing. But the average person is not fasting to orient themselves more towards their Heavenly Father. They're doing it to deal with their love handles. Or if you're fasting in another faith, you're fasting in devotion to a false God that can't deliver the forgiveness and wholeness and redemption that only comes from Christ.
No, it's great. I just know that fasting is a part of how people diet, and I also know it's a part of what Jesus expects us to do.
Right, and so anyone who wants to go into that a little bit more, late summer, we did a series called No Fear, and I did a whole sermon on fasting as a method by which we live with a healthy fear of God. So if you're interested in that, you can go watch that online. It's probably 34 to 38 minutes long. Find it on YouTube.
All right. I want to kind of bring it down to, let's get started.
Okay.
How do I do this? And how do I do this today? For all the talking we just did, up in the clouds,
yeah.
What can we actually start doing, today when it comes to these three areas? Should we try to do all at once? Is there a specific thing we should? Let's just dive into it. But to do that, I want to ask you, what kind of questions did you get from people in the lobby after your sermon?
I got a lot of different ones, but there was a theme, which was people saying, I struggle with multiple of these: diet, nutrition, exercise. How do I get started? And I'm a big fan of the framework Dave Ramsey offers for tackling debt, debt snowball. Start with a linchpin habit of attacking the smallest debt or the smallest interest level debt, knocking that out, and then building momentum into the next thing. I'm a big fan of Atomic Habits by James Clear. He talks about how when we think of big changes, we think of explosive atomic growth, when in actuality it comes from small atomic little things. So when people are I don't know where to begin, which one should I start? I kind of ask them, which one do you think would be the easiest for you to gain momentum in? Which one has the most immediate, small, and simple step you can take? And then which one do you think could produce compounding interest in terms of growth that could bleed into the other things? So one woman I talked to, she used to be an avid runner, and she just had kids, and that does a lot to your body, and then had another kid, and she's trying to get back into running. And she has vivid memories of thriving in her physical life when she was running. And so for her, she felt like getting into a very simple running routine would then help her make healthier food decisions, and then being tired after running would help her go to sleep at a good time, and then going to sleep at a good time will actually help her be more rejuvenated to then go run the next day. So she decided exercise was going to be her angle because she had a very clear habit. She thought it could gain compound interest in the right direction and go for it. Another person, sleep was their problem. They're just staying up way too late, and they need to set a bedtime alarm for when to go to bed, because they're staying up too late, then they're waking up groggy, then they're making poor choices, then they're not going to the gym, and so sleep became their thing. So I'm trying to be practical but not prescriptive, because everybody's got a different situation.
So it sounds like the advice you gave people in the lobby is something we could tell viewers and watchers now, and that is start with one of the areas, and then one of the practices in those areas.
And just do that and watch and track how that starts to bleed into the others.
Okay. So kind of help me through that. I've said that I hit the snooze button. Help me through that with sleep.
So where do you keep your phone?
By my bed.
Yeah. So number one, put that in a different room.
I will not hear the alarm.
I don't believe that.
Okay. You think I will?
Yeah. How far away is your bed? How far away?
I'm a heavy sleeper.
Yeah, so am I.
Okay.
Yeah, so I keep mine in the bathroom, which is adjacent.
Okay.
I can get there. If you want, charge it overnight outside your bedroom door, like on the floor. I know you have to worry about waking up Malcolm. Or get a really loud alarm clock that you could put somewhere else. Because you can get a cheap alarm clock for $8.
Like the 1900s, before the iPhone
Like
existed.
some really awful one.
Okay.
So I would say do that.
All right.
And then Atomic Habits, he talks about habit stacking, where over time you make it so that one habit naturally and reactively bleeds into the next one. So like my phone, I've been working on this probably since like 2017. Craig Rochelle adds one new habit a year and he stacks them all. That's why he has like 30 amazing things that are very, very discipline heavy. But like my phone is in the bathroom. When I go get it and turn off the alarm, all of my clothes that I need to wear for what's next are laid on my sink. So in the dark, I'm just like putting on clothes as a zombie, including socks. And then I go downstairs, put on my shoes, and I'm walking outside like I talked about. I have not had a cognitive thought yet, and I've been up for 3 minutes. And I'm just a zombie. And then I'm walking outside. And then for the 10 minutes of walking, I'm a mixed bag of emotion and distraction, and I'm angry, I'm awake, or I've got some stress because my sermon's not where I want it to be, or I've got some interpersonal anxiety I've got to pray through, or I've got a slice on my golf swing, and I'm thinking about that, and I'm embarrassed I'm thinking about that, even though I should be talking to God about something. So that's like the whole first 10, 15 minutes.
Okay.
Then I come upstairs. I've already hit the coffee button on the way out because that's a reactive pattern. I've made coffee the night before. And then all my journal and my Bible is laid out the night before, so then I go sit down. And all that's done. I've set the table for me to mindlessly go through a rhythm that gets me to the most important habit. So for you, it's like, okay, what do you want your first 30 minutes of the day to look like?
Yeah.
None of that's going to be even remotely clear. You can't even build margin to explore that and test it until you're like, I'm going to get up without snooze.
All right, I have a last 5% personal between me and you about what you just said.
Yeah,
That everything you just said overwhelms me.
totally.
Like that sounds great. I'm
happy for me.
I like that you do that. No, but in a real way. And I'm saying that not just for me, but I'm hoping for the viewers.
Yeah.
Is like, I'm asking for help, and it's like, okay, put it outside your phone, outside your room. And I'm like, that's difficult. And then it's like, if you do that, then all these things will happen. And I'm like, I'm not really sure where to start.
No, I don't think that's true. I've built this over 8 years.
Okay.
So, and I had my first kid in 2017, which is when the pressure of a child forced me to get good with my habits. Okay. So the lack of margin mandated I get intense with these habits. So,
but you don't have to wait until then to get intense.
No,
with
but
your
it's
habits.
it's like it's hard to really track your money until you have sudden financial burdens that force you to track your money.
Yeah.
So for you, the snooze thing, what's on the other side of not hitting snooze 9 times? What do you want to be true for Zach in the morning? If you could immediately lose the 9 snooze, 81-minute sleep inertia, if Zach could snap his fingers and have this be true for him, for his wife, for his kid, what would you want your morning to look like? Or what's something you'd want to have in the morning you don't have right now?
I would just want to have like white space, empty space.
To breathe.
To breathe, to be, to stretch,
Read?
maybe, to read, to do something. I don't really have a specific want, but I snooze in, and then I am like, I wake up, and it's like, get out of bed, you idiot. You got to get
And then you're
going.
behind all day.
And then I'm, yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess just like empty space to be.
I wouldn't say that this is like a great long-term habit, but what's something you love doing?
Reading.
You love reading.
Yeah. But I don't do it in the mornings because I don't have time.
Right. So I wonder if, like for me, I mean, I think for you too, waking up from an alarm when I'm going to a golf tee time is the easiest wake up I have every month. Like it is, I drove 3.5 hours for a golf outing in Virginia with some buddies this summer. I went to sleep at like 11 and I woke up at 4 like a rocket. I was like, good morning, let's go. Like it was just so easy to wake up.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you need to think through what's something that would just bring great delight and joy to you as like the carrot to dangle in front of killing snooze. Not going to be forever.
That's a good practical thing I can do.
Like, I mean, go buy an AeroPress and go buy some nice coffee beans and have the nice gooseneck thing and be like, babe, I'm going to drop $50 on these things because I'm going to spend $50 to conquer snooze.
Now I'm motivated.
Now you're motivated.
You're hitting on my millennial hipster.
There you go. So have
Just
the
need
gooseneck,
to-
the AeroPress, the nice beans. Get the Stumptown on Amazon. Shout out Stumptown Coffee. We'd love to be sponsored.
Yeah, we are not sponsored now. Stumptown, if you're listening.
And then like have your chair, have your book.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be even really controversial here. Have like a nice mild cigar.
In the morning.
In the morning,
morning
dude.
cigar?
Bro.
That's it.
And give yourself like and try it. Maybe try not don't on a Sabbath. Like you want to be able to sleep on a Sabbath, but like do something that like it's going to stir some delight in you to motivate you to kill this thing. Because until you have a want that you desire more than the snooze will always win. Mm-hmm. So like cultivate that, and give that a shot. I think that's the only way you'll be motivated. Because what I just articulated does not motivate you to want to move the phone.
Right.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
But
it helps me. What I understand is it helps me build the habit day after day.
Yes.
And I read Atomic Habits too, and there's something about like that I liked was like don't miss twice.
Yeah.
Like just do it every day and don't miss twice.
Don't make it 2 in a row.
Yeah, because that's the beginning of a new habit. Mm-hmm. So if I'm motivating myself with something that I do want, it's in a small way.
Do you have a book that excites you right now?
Right, yes.
Yeah, so then have your chair, have everything laid out the night before, and like before going to bed, lay those things out. Yeah. And be like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give it a shot. Okay. And the next day you might hit snooze, but you won't make it be 2 days in a row. But like that good coffee, I mean, bro, I know it's like having a new kid. It's like just quiet is holy. It is a holy place.
Yeah, and I think if I experience that, it'll be worth getting up earlier to be able to do it, if that's what that means.
Yeah, the first time it'll be a little bit easier. It'll be harder the third or fourth time when it's like, do I really stay up to watch another episode? Yeah. Or do I do the right thing, go to bed at a decent time? And
let's think a little bit for a minute about what that would mean for someone who wants to start on diet. Mm-hmm. Let's just kind of like, maybe we know an amalgamation of people who, your friend with the Oreos.
Yeah.
Or, people that have significant maybe like fitness goals when it comes to dieting, or what's this easy habit? Let's brainstorm a little bit about that.
So I had a guy in the lobby, loves Jesus, young guy. He went too far with his girlfriend, was feeling a lot of shame about it. And we talked for a while and we prayed, and it was a really beautiful conversation with him and a friend of his who like he had confessed to. But what I told him was, hey man, you've proven to yourself you're not mature enough to be in that environment. You're not mature enough to be in a house or an apartment with no people around. You've proven. When I quit drinking in college, when I gave my life to Christ, I learned pretty fast I'm not mature enough to go to a party with red cups. Yeah. I needed to have extended time where I was not mature enough and wise enough to exist in that environment without falling into sin. I think some people need to come to grips with you are not mature enough to have certain things in your house. I never worried about having a drinking problem, even though I shared from stage that I realized I'd had something to drink every night for 3 weeks. I know I don't have a drinking problem because there's a bottle of bourbon in my office that we, like when men come for book group, we open it up and drink it together. Or like when our preaching team gets together and we debrief things in the evening, we will share a beverage together. But like I've never once touched that while being here by myself for hours and days on end. So like I know I'm mature enough to have that. Not everybody can have that.
Yeah, and it's not hidden.
No, everyone knows it.
Your assistant knows it. Your people know it. We know it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So but like that may not be appropriate for everybody. You might have to admit you are not mature enough to have all of these snacks in the house. You're not mature enough to treat yourself with all those things. And that may mean alcohol in the house. But it's probably more like processed foods, chips, dips, whatever is your thing. But when it comes to diet, I think the first step is like, how do we prune what doesn't belong? And I think that could be a really bold move because then you're going to have some food. And then you might be tempted to like, well, I don't have the food I like. I'm going to go DoorDash. Don't DoorDash. It's bad stewardship. It's way too expensive. I understand getting a DoorDash for someone if they have a baby or like they have a medical thing, you want to send them something. But when spending $55 on McDonald's is a problem. But yeah, first step I think would be like get rid of what doesn't belong. My father drank 2 or 3 Pepsis a day when I was a kid, and he felt convicted and got rid of all soda. He lost 30 pounds in a month. Yeah. But he's just like, I can't have soda in the house. And then he gave up soda.
And let's mention this to the person that you said didn't want to go to the gym because the kind of the abusive mom voice was in their head, and you're dealing with shame.
Right.
What I've heard our dietitian friend say is that what you might need to do to get over the shame is to have to take the shame away from the food, to like have a habit of entering a healthy lifestyle is to like not shame food, kind of like our Oreo friend, but to engage in it in a healthy way.
Yeah.
And the power of what you had, the kind of the stigma around alcohol for you is removed because you have it where you want it, and there's no hiding it, and there's no need to do it. And I would say, again, we're not dietitians, but it probably means inviting people into that process of saying, I don't want to eat this way, but when it's in the house, I do. But I feel so much shame when I eventually do because I've restricted myself. Will you help me by just knowing that this is what I'm going to do?
I think that's great.
Invite people into it.
Yeah. Maybe this could be a closing thought. I talked to a woman who has had an eating disorder, and she's almost 50. And she was crying talking to me, and she's a very mature Christ follower, a leader in our church. But I could see she was very, very moved sharing this, very emotive. And I asked her, who have you talked to about this? And she's like, nobody. Like her husband knew. But I was like, you've got tons of women here who like love you, who champion you, you confessing to. She's like, yeah, I do. I was like, have you ever talked to them about what you believe about yourself from this struggle and how you feel? Because she's conquered the eating disorder, but she now lives with the repercussions of that in her body anatomically. There's like problems with her body now because of decades of that. And she's just navigating all this fear and stuff. And she hasn't talked to anybody. And I didn't come up with this line. Someone else did. But there's this idea that the depth in which you're willing to be vulnerable is the depth in which you're willing to be healed. Because like you can't really experience healing without confession and then acceptance and forgiveness. And so I just challenged her to like invite other people, to your point, into this struggle, be real about the lies that she's believing, be real about regret and all those things, bring it to the surface, confess your sins to one another, fulfill the law of Christ. And there's just something about sharing with other people. And I told her, I want you to come find me after you've talked to one of your close friends and seen that they don't reject you, they don't distance from you, they love you, they're going to help you, and they're going to remind you of God's truth, but also challenge you to, if you need counseling for this or need to go see a doctor for this, you're going to go do that. But all of that happens through community. We tend to endure deep pain in isolation, and we experience healing in community. It's really hard to heal yourself. So I do think with the gym and whatever your thing is that's stirring up that shame, you got to invite people into it, good people, people rooted in Christ, or people who are at least running after Christ with you. And that's why groups are so important.
Invite others in.
Yeah.
To whatever step you're taking.
And it's hard because it's your body.
Yeah.
So you've probably been trained to not let others in because it causes pain. But just like we were talking about, if you want to experience healing and growth, that's going to be determined by the depth you're willing to go with others, with God, all that.
That's great. So take a risk this week. Tell us how it went.
Comment if you took a step.
Yeah,
Let us know.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Let us know.
What steps did you take? What was the small habit you made? Join Zach in the mission to move the phone off of his bedside table.
Yes, that would be great. So, all right, we're going to wrap up, and that has been The Last 5%.